Hello, in this video we're going to be talking about the Ei414 alarm interface. This is a fire and carbon monoxide alarm interface. Essentially it is a relay and an input module combined into one unit. So to give you a quick overview of the outside, we have three icons across the top which correspond with the relevant relays within. So we have fire, service and CO. Also on the outside, underneath, we have a house code slot, and you would house code this device exactly the same as you would house code any of our other alarms or RF devices. The only other thing on the outside is the key, and there's three sections on the key. We have on, off and test, and we'll come back to that at the end of the video on how they work. If we're to pop the front off the unit, immediately you will see an antenna. This is an RF device, so to use this in an installation you would need to make sure that it's either an RF, a radio link installation, or at least has some element of that installation that can talk via radio link. If we look at one side, we've got a series of three relays. So we have fire, service and carbon monoxide, and they correspond with the relevant different devices. So if a fire alarm activates, it will trigger the fire relay. If a carbon monoxide alarm triggers, it will activate the CO relay, and the service relay is triggered whenever, say, a head is removed from the base, or maybe there's a sensor fault detected. That would trigger the service relay. If we're to look at the other side, we have a mains input. It's a mains powered device, so here's our 230 connections here. It can also be powered by an extra low voltage source as well, such as a 12 or 24 volt, and that's what the next two connections are along here. If we're to move on further, we've got an input, and this unit would predominantly be used with maybe a sprinkler flow switch. So quite often you would interconnect from your sprinkler to the alarm. So if the sprinkler activates, you would want the alarms to sound, and that's where you'd wire from the sprinkler flow switch into this device. The final one is also an input, but this is a triggered input. So if you want to trigger the unit based on, say, a 12 volt or 24 volt input, that's where you would use these connections here. The only other thing on the inside is a battery backup, and that's just a little toggle switch at the bottom to power it on or off. If we put the front back on, just to explain the key operation, we have three different positions. So off is, as the name suggests, would leave the unit powered off. It would maybe used if the property is void. On is the position it would be in most of the time. So we want to be encouraging residents to be testing their alarms quite regularly, but you may not necessarily want every time a test button is pressed on an alarm to trigger the relevant relay. Quite a common application for this device would be linked to Telecare units and dispersed alarms, in which case you wouldn't necessarily want to activate a call to an alarm receiving centre just because a resident has testing their alarms. So in the on position, it will send a genuine activation, but will not send a test signal. If, however, you're the installer, you're a contractor, you want to commission the unit, you want to test that it is doing what it would do, that's when you would move the key to the test position. In the test position, simply pressing the test button on an alarm will activate the relevant relay, so you can test that connection through to whatever device. It could be a strobe, it could be a sounder, it could be the alarm receiving centre via a Telecare unit. And that is a very quick overview of the Ei414.